But yeah, let's go into the off the field stuff. There was obviously statements from the Union Bears and the Rangers Sports Association before the game, urging people to follow their lead, I guess is the best way to put it, in terms of walking out in the 55-minute. I guess in protest at, firstly, how the club has been run, also around Fleet Clement still being in the managerial position, and wanting change as we go forward. There were 3 banners. Tommy and I had a bit of an over-under, 3 banners today going on, but there were 3 banners held up, 2 in the first half, 1 at the start of the second half, all targeting the board, all showcasing displeasure, I guess, is maybe the best way to put it at this stage. Maybe that's maybe being kind. Anger would be another way of describing it.
Definitely being kind. Displeasure.
Anger's probably a better way of putting it, towards the board and how the club is being run. In 55 minutes, the Union Bears packed up and left, or attempted to leave. They were kind of held up in the stairway quite a bit for the next 5 minutes or so. There was loads going on in the game. They didn't sing at all throughout the first 55 minutes they were there. They held up the banners, as I mentioned. They didn't celebrate any of the goals that Rangers scored. There was a very clear message coming from them for the first, I guess, until Rangers scored. The stadium was silent. It was almost everyone else was just expectant, and the Union Bears weren't there making the noise, and you could hear the players shouting each other on the park. It's a really strange atmosphere. When the Union Bears did walk out, there were a significant number of boos actually towards them. There were people in all 4 stands that walked out in solidarity with them, but there were also a significant number of boos towards those who were walking out and jeering. Ross, what did you make of it all? It was so strange, and it's clear there's a very big divide in terms of what people think is the right way to go about this.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a divide in what people think is the right way to go about it. I thought the atmosphere today was just the strangest, weirdest atmosphere I've ever been at a football game. That's outside of Rangers, just any game. I've just actually made a joke to my dad during the game saying, I wonder if this is what all the Premier League games are like. Do you know what I mean? Where there's no, it's like the soul was ripped out of the support today. It was just a weird atmosphere. Took a little bit of time to get used to that. And I actually thought in the first 20-25 minutes, I thought the players in a weird way kind of responded to it because they didn't have that same level of kind of scrutiny with every single touch. And the way they started the game, I thought, wow, they're absolutely flying here. That obviously transpired to not be the case, but yeah, I just thought overall it's a pretty horrible situation. It's not something I really enjoy talking about because ultimately it's stuff away from football and it's not really the things that interest me. But yeah, look, I think everyone's entitled to their opinion on this. I think the Union Bears and the RSA are entitled to put their thoughts forward and ask for support on what they were trying to do today. And everyone that left in the 55th minute, I have absolutely no problem with it. It's the right to do. In the same way that I would like the Union Bears and anyone following them to be accepting of the other side's opinion on these things and not criticise, then I would also have probably asked the supporters in the ground today not to boo them when they were leaving. I thought that wasn't really the way to go about it. I think they could have left. Everyone's accepting of each other's opinion on this, and that's it, right? You can have your debate after it. Union Bears and others have decided that's the way they want to go about things. That's the way they want to protest. Others should be accepting of that, and vice versa, right? So that was maybe the bit that disappointed me in there. But overall, yeah, it's a pretty horrible situation. It's not something that I'm looking to see continue with the Union Bears because I think they give a lot to the club in terms of atmosphere, and I think we all felt that today. For me, it's not something I was going to get on board with, right? I wasn't going to walk out in the 55th minute. It's not for me. It's not the way I would do things. Like I said before, I don't criticise anyone else for doing it. The way I always look at these things is I'm just not sure that that's going to make the impact that they're looking for. It's that they're doing it with the best intentions, right? They're doing it because they love the football club the same as everyone else. They're doing it because they want change, and I totally appreciate that. But I just look at it from the board perspective sometimes. They're maybe not going to take that seriously. What they'll take seriously is people not buying their season ticket. What they'll take seriously is people not buying merchandise, not turning up to the game, buying food, drink, right? That's what they're going to take seriously, in my opinion. I just think today, look, they're allowed to, like I said, entitled to their opinion, but it just wouldn't be the way I would handle things. And yeah, I've seen the fallout from the game. I've seen people arguing on Twitter about it. It's a pretty horrible place at the moment, Twitter, when it comes to Rangers fans. It's not a nice space to be in. But look, the club is in a pretty low state at the moment, and I think what the Union Bears are saying is fair. The standards at the club are the lowest they have been. There's no doubt about that. Like, we seem like we are accepting second best right now. So I agree with that. I agree with everything they're saying. The evidence is there. Look at this season that we are having at the moment. Look at the last 2 or 3 years. It's not acceptable. And unfortunately, a lot of the decisions that the boardroom have made have kind of put us in this position. So I can't argue a lot of things the Union Bears are saying. They're well entitled to their opinion. It wouldn't be the way I would go about it. But I think both sides have to be accepting of each other. Ultimately, everyone wants the best for Rangers. Everyone's going to go about it in their own way. And hopefully we get a better Rangers at the end of it. But I think this is going to rumble on for a lot longer.
Yeah, I think it will rumble on for a lot longer. And I'll come back to talking about the season ticket point that you mentioned there, Ross, because that's also going to come up around April time. It'll be interesting to see where we are at that stage. But Tommy, I wanted to get your thoughts. I'll bring a couple of comments first. So Aldo RFC said stand with the UB. But it was this comment from Rangers Easy OK. He said, walked out in 55. The booing and abuse of people who did was a complete disgrace. No one forced anyone to walk out. It's freedom of choice, but the people who did will be on the right side of this one. What did you make of the reaction from a lot of fans to people walking out? And what do you think it's going to just create more of a people become entrenched in what side of the argument they're on and just creates more of a divide amongst Rangers fans as this, because it's undoubtedly going to continue for a lot longer than I think anyone would like, but definitely beyond today anyway.
Yeah, there's legitimacy to that. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the demonisation of any sections of the support. Right? The RSA and the Union Bears have looked at the situation, as we all have, and when it's been mismanagement, mistakes made at the highest levels, mistakes made on the pitch with the playing squad, it's not good enough. We definitely all agree in every section of the support that we want things to get better. We want Rangers to be performing and we want to start winning things. Right? That's fine. So they've looked at it and they've went, well, what's our best way to protest? This is it. Entirely up to them. They're more than right and have rights to do that level of protest. Right? And they did it. And they didn't cause any trouble in terms of exiting the stadium and anything like that. They did their thing. Best of luck to them. I'm not for booing them. I'm not for joining them in the walkout. That's up to me. I think what you'll probably find, and did find, is that people, and I'm not going to repackage what yourself and people in the comments and Ross have just said, is that people all want some level of change because it's not been good enough. We know we're watching a poor team. We know we've fallen flat on our faces several times. We know that we've wasted money. We know that we've not done the corporate side of the club and the rebuild as well as we could have, right? Then you've got investors there putting in money. Who replaces them if they go? Question mark. We've brought in new people like Patrick Stewart. We'll probably come to his statement over the weekend and stuff like that as well. Has he set the header on fire? No, but let's leave that to then. But it's the manager and the playing squad who have taken it quite rightly because they've let us down in key moments consistently. It's the only consistent thing about that team, right, is that they keep letting us down. And so people are saying, right, well, everything round about the club needs to be looked at. Yeah, I'm on board with that, right? Doesn't mean I need to walk out on the 55th minute, but I also don't need to boo the Union Bears who are just exercising their right. So I think what you'll do is you'll probably find the majority of people are in the middle there, which is I didn't boo the Union Bears, but I didn't in the RSA and I didn't join them. But I do absolutely want some level of change because I know it's not good enough. And people are looking for something to change, something to get behind, some sort of tangible action that comes out of this board that they can actually see, or indeed change driven by the supporters, which comes to, season tickets. But again, the season ticket thing, it's interesting, right? I know you want to talk about it, but I think it does drive a level of change, but at the same point in time, it does hit the club's coffers and stuff like that. And then you're saying, where does that money come from to then accelerate you to the level you want to get to? It's a very complex conversation. So I'll park that up right now. But just to get to your point, everybody should be in the position of fine to protest, fine not to agree with that. Let's not get into the space that we draw daggers on each other within the support because that's not useful. and let's keep focused on the fact that we want this team to get better. And that's what the board and the incumbent CEO and the chairman, etc., should be focusing their attention on. The fans aren't happy. They are showing it. They will continue to be unhappy until the product on the park is better. Get on with your jobs.
Yeah, I want to, Tom, I'll stick with you. I'm going to bring up what Ross kind of spoke about there in terms of how people can maybe impact or make their feelings known more, I guess, than just walking out. And one of the points Ross raised was about not buying season tickets or not buying match tickets, not buying food and drink and all that sort of stuff when you go to the game. The season tickets one I think is really interesting, particularly because there's such an appetite and such a long wait currently for season tickets at Ibrox. How much of that plays into, I guess, the hands of the club as such, because people don't want to risk losing their season ticket seat and potentially have a 4, 5, 6 year wait to get a chance at another one. And I think if whether you renew right at the start of when the season ticket renewals come out or you renew at the end, it probably doesn't matter to the club, because the club will just forecast that money coming in at the deadline, and that'll be that, and doesn't really make too much of a difference to the club.
Yeah, it's one of these continuing myths, right? I'll hand my season ticket back. And I'm sure people mean it, right? But given that list of things that you just mentioned there, how much does it actually happen? People go, I'm handing back my season ticket and I'm not going back. I'm not entirely sure it ever happens, really, to be brutally honest with you, right? Because people are worried. And ultimately, particularly with a club size, the history and the fan base of Rangers, right? It's not like any other business. You know, if somebody goes like that, I really hate that car manufacturer. Well, go and buy a similar car with a different badge. Isn't anybody looking at Rangers who's a Rangers fan and going, well, I'll go and support another club? That's not how it works. You are absolutely locked into one provider, and that one provider is Rangers Football Club. Now, whether you want to buy a pie or not, fine. You know, it's in the intrinsic nature of trying to then distill how much of an impact that's had is the problem. How do you then say to the club, to the board, by the way, by us not doing this, and this is where a concerted effort and a singular, at least umbrella voice from the fan base would be useful, to say, if we don't do X, we intend to hurt you by Y. Would you want to do that in public and give other fans the ability to then kind of have a go at us and have a go at the club and underpin some of that? Probably not, right? But that's the position you're trying to say when you say, I'm going to hand my season ticket back or I'm not going to buy my European tickets. Okay, quantify it. How many? How many of those 55 quid games or whatever are not going to get purchased? What does that look like? How does that impact? And ultimately, it does impact whether you do it or not, right? If you were to do it, it would impact the amount of money that Philippe Clement gets, that Niels Copping gets, that, you know, club infrastructure. To just go back to the conversation we had, that we want things to get better, okay, but you're having a go at the investors who've pumped money in, rightly or wrongly. Who else replaces them, or who replaces the money that you don't want to put in? Now, it's a bit of a kind of, you know, vicious cycle, but ultimately in there, I don't see anybody handing back their season tickets because everybody wants to go and do what we all want to do, which is go and watch Rangers through the bad times, through the good times, preferably the latter. But that's what we do. We turn up, right? And unfortunately, we can't go anywhere else because we are all Rangers fans, and there's only one club that will ever do for us, and they play at Ibrox. Full stop.